Okay, so Attack on Titan's final season, you've got two brothers, Eren and Zeke. Both of them are trying to save their people, the Eldians, from literal centuries of oppression, hatred, and genocide. And they both have plans, big plans, world-changing plans, except their plans are completely opposite, and also both kind of horrifying. Zeke wants to sterilize every Eldian so they peacefully go extinct and end the cycle of suffering forever. Eren wants to flatten the entire rest of the world so Eldians can finally be free. One brother says, we should stop existing. The other says, everyone else should stop existing. And here's what keeps me up at night. Neither of them is crazy. Like, if you follow their logic, if you've lived through what they've lived through, if you accept their premises, both plans almost make sense. Almost. Today, we're diving into one of the most brutal ideological conflicts I've ever seen in fiction. Two people who love each other, who want the same thing, who've both been destroyed by the same world, and who end up on completely opposite sides of how do we fix this? Because this isn't really about titans or time loops or any of that. This is about what happens when trauma tries to solve trauma and how two different types of pain lead to two different types of apocalypse. Let's talk about it. Part 1. Two kids, same nightmare, different scars. Before we get into the ideology stuff, we need to talk about why Eren and Zeke think the way they do. Because neither of them just woke up one day and decided, you know what? Mass murder / extinction sounds great. They were made into this. Eren grows up in Shiganshina, Outer Wall, poor district, and when he's like 9 years old, he watches his mom get eaten alive by a titan while he's completely powerless to stop it. That moment breaks something in him. Or maybe it crystallizes something that was always there. But from that point on, Eren's entire existence becomes about agency, about never being powerless again, about fighting back no matter what. His trauma is about helplessness, so his solution is absolute control. Now Zeke. Zeke grows up in Mali, the enemy nation that treats Eldians like subhuman weapons. His parents are resistance members who basically use him as a pawn in their revolution. They don't see him as a son, they see him as a tool. And when their plans fall apart, young Zeke, 7 years old, turns them in to save himself and his grandparents. Then, he spends the rest of his childhood being trained as a weapon, watching other Eldian kids get turned into titans, all while being told his entire ethnic group is cursed, evil, shouldn't exist. His trauma is about existence itself, so his solution is non-existence. See the pattern? Eren's pain taught him that the world takes everything from you unless you fight. Zeke's pain taught him that being born into this world is the suffering. They both have the same enemy, systemic oppression, generational hatred, the cycle of violence, but they learned completely different lessons about how to survive it. And those lessons, they're about to become ideologies that reshape the entire world. Part 2, Zeke's plan. Or let's just not. Alright, so Zeke's solution, the euthanasia plan. On paper, it sounds absolutely insane. Use the founding Titan's power to sterilize every single Eldian so they can't have children. Let the entire race peacefully die out over one generation. No more Eldians equals no more Titans equals no more reason for the world to hate them equals no more suffering. Problem solved, right? Here's the thing though, and I hate that I'm about to say this, Zeke's logic is actually pretty consistent. Hear me out. From his perspective, Eldians are trapped in what sociologists call social death. They're a marginalized group that exists purely to be hated, exploited, or feared. Mali uses them as weapons. Paradis uses them as scapegoats. No matter where they are, Eldians suffer because they're Eldians. So Zeke looks at this and thinks, the problem isn't the people, the problem is the category. The ethnic identity itself is the source of all conflict. Remove the category, remove the conflict. It's utilitarian philosophy taken to its most extreme conclusion. The greatest good for the greatest number, even if that means the number eventually becomes zero. There's this philosopher, David Benatar, who argues for anti-natalism. Basically, that coming into existence is always a harm because life guarantees suffering. Zeke's plan is like that, but for an entire ethnic group. We were born into suffering. Let's make sure no one else has to be. And you can see how he got there, right? He was literally raised to believe Eldians were mistakes, that their existence was a curse. His mentor Tom Izava reinforced this, told him the Titans were a punishment, that Eldians would never be free as long as they could turn into monsters. Zeke internalized the world's hatred. He looked at centuries of oppression and concluded, they're right. We are the problem, not because we're evil, but because we exist. It's the logic of the oppressed adopting the oppressor's worldview and trying to solve it from the inside, but here's where it gets dark. Zeke's plan requires something he never really grapples with, consent. He's making a choice for every single Eldian alive and every Eldian that could ever exist. He's deciding unilaterally that their potential lives aren't worth living. That extinction is a mercy. That's not liberation. That's paternalism wearing a compassion mask. He's become the thing he hated, someone with power deciding what's best for everyone else regardless of what they want. And deep down, I think Zeke knows this. That's why he's so defensive about it. Why he keeps insisting it's the only way. Because if he admits there might be another path, then he has to confront that he's planning genocide by sterilization and calling it salvation. Part 3. Eren's plan, or freedom at any cost. Now, Eren. Eren's plan is somehow more straightforward and way more horrifying. The rumbling, release the wall titans, millions of them, and have them march across the entire world, flattening every nation, every city, every person outside Paradise Island. Kill everyone else so Eldians can finally be free. And before you ask, how could anyone think this is okay? Let's trace how Eren gets here, because it's not a sudden decision, it's the logical endpoint of everything he's ever believed. Eren's core philosophy from day one has been, fight. If you don't fight, you can't win. He saw the Titans breach the wall and he fought. He saw corruption in the government and he fought. He learned the truth about the world and he kept fighting. Because for Eren, freedom isn't something you negotiate for. It's not something you compromise on. It's not something you ask for. Freedom is something you take, by force. And anyone who tries to stop you is an enemy. This is existentialist philosophy cranked up to 11. Jean-Paul Sartre said man is condemned to be free, meaning we're forced to make choices and those choices define us. Eren takes that and says, okay, so I choose total liberation and I'll kill anyone who tries to limit that choice. It's radical autonomy, radical agency, the ultimate rejection of victimhood, but it's also the same violence he's been fighting against, just pointed in a different direction. The world oppressed Eldians, so Eren's solution is to oppress the world harder. Fight genocide with bigger genocide. It's the cycle of violence eating itself, and Eren's convinced himself he's the one breaking the cycle. He's not, obviously, he's just making the wheel spin faster. There's this moment where Eren tells his friends, I just keep moving forward until my enemies are destroyed. And the horror in that sentence is the word until. Not unless, not if, until. It's not conditional, it's inevitable. Eren has made freedom so absolute that it requires the extinction of everyone who might threaten it. Which, spoiler alert, is literally the entire rest of humanity. He's transformed I want to be free into I want to be the only one with agency and everyone else needs to die so I can have it. That's not freedom, that's tyranny plus wearing a protagonist mask. Part 4, the conversation that breaks everything. So you've got these two plans, Zeke's peaceful extinction, Eren's violent extinction, and they meet in this weird timeless dimension, the paths, to talk it out. And this conversation, man, this is where you see how broken they both are. Zeke's trying to convince Eren that life isn't worth the suffering, that the only way to win is not to play. He's so desperate for Eren to understand, to see that euthanasia is mercy, not murder. And Eren just doesn't care, because Eren's already made his choice. He didn't come to paths to be convinced. He came to use Zeke's royal blood to activate the founding titan and then betray him. The brothers aren't having a debate, they're performing one, because neither of them is actually listening to the other. They're both so locked into their trauma responses, their worldviews, their solutions, that they can't even imagine the other might have a point. Zeke sees Eren as irrationally attached to a life that's only brought pain. Eren sees Zeke as a coward who'd rather surrender than fight. And they're both right. And they're both wrong. This is what trauma does. It narrows your vision until you can only see one path forward. And if someone else sees a different path, they must be blind, stupid, or evil. Zeke's entire plan requires believing that existence is suffering and non-existence is peace. Eren's entire plan requires believing that freedom through violence is more valuable than peace through coexistence. Neither of them can imagine a third option, because a third option would mean admitting that their trauma didn't give them perfect clarity. It gave them tunnel vision. Part 5, what they're really fighting about. Okay, let's zoom out, because on the surface, this is a fight about strategy, but underneath, this is a fight about what it means to be human. Zeke looks at humanity and sees suffering, conflict, endless cycles of hatred, and he concludes, we're broken by design. The only way to fix us is to stop making more of us. It's a deeply pessimistic view. It says there's no hope for change, no possibility of growth, no chance that future generations might do better. It's determinism, the belief that we're trapped by history, by biology, by systems too big to fight. Eren, on the other hand, looks at the same suffering and says, we're not broken, we're oppressed, and oppression can be destroyed. We're not victims of fate. We're agents who can reshape reality through will. It's a deeply optimistic view of human agency, wrapped in the most pessimistic view of human nature. Because Eren believes people can change their circumstances, but he doesn't believe people can change their hearts. He doesn't think Marley will ever stop hating Eldians. He doesn't think the cycle of revenge will ever end naturally, so he'll end it artificially, through overwhelming force. Both of them have given up on humanity in different ways. Zeke gave up on humanity's ability to be happy. Eren gave up on humanity's ability to coexist. And that's the tragedy. They're both trying to solve the same problem. How do you free people from systemic oppression? But they've both lost faith that people are worth saving. Zeke wants to euthanize the oppressed. Eren wants to annihilate the oppressors. Neither of them can imagine a world where the oppressed and the oppressors both change, both grow, both become something new. Part 6. The fatal flaw in both plans. So here's what's wild. Both of these plans fail for the same reason, just mirrored. Zeke's plan fails because he forgot something crucial. People want to live. Even if life is hard, even if it's painful, even if it's shaped by oppression, most people still choose existence over non-existence. They want kids, they want futures, they want hope. By making that choice for them, Zeke's not liberating anyone. He's becoming another oppressor, just with a gentler aesthetic. Eren's plan fails because he forgot something equally crucial. You can't kill your way to freedom. Freedom isn't just the absence of external threats. It's the presence of choice, of plurality, of other people to be free alongside. If Eren destroys everyone else, the Eldians aren't free. They're just alone. And loneliness isn't freedom. It's a different kind of prison. Both brothers fell into the same trap. They mistook solving the symptom for curing the disease. Zeke thought the problem was Eldian existence, so he tried to erase it. Eren thought the problem was external threats, so he tried to eliminate them. But the actual problem, the thing neither of them could see, was the cycle of dehumanization itself. The way societies teach people to see other groups as less than human, as acceptable targets, as problems to be solved rather than people to coexist with. And you can't break that cycle through more dehumanization. Whether you're dehumanizing your own people, we shouldn't exist, or everyone else, they shouldn't exist. You're still feeding the machine. Part 7. So who's right? Neither of them, both of them. It depends on what you value more. If you think peace at any cost is the highest good, even if that peace requires the extinction of an entire people, then maybe Zeke's logic holds. If you think freedom at any cost is the highest good, even if that freedom requires genocide, then maybe Eren's logic holds. But here's the thing. Both of those positions require accepting something most of us can't actually accept. That there are no other options, that the world is so broken, the hatred so deep, the cycle so entrenched that only total solutions will work. And Attack on Titan, to its credit, doesn't endorse either of them. It shows you exactly where each ideology leads. Zeke's leads to Ymir rejecting his plan, because even after 2,000 years of slavery, she still chose life. Eren's leads to his friends, the people he was supposedly saving, having to stop him because they refused to let genocide be done in their name. The show's answer isn't Zeke or Eren, it's Armin, it's Mikasa, it's Jean and Connie and Reiner, and all the people who are trying to find a third option, even though it's messier, harder, less certain. The people who are saying, maybe we can't solve this perfectly, but we can at least try not to become monsters while we figure it out. So, Eren versus Zeke. Two brothers, both brilliant, both traumatized, both trying to save their people from centuries of oppression, and both of them so damaged by their pain that they can't see the difference between liberation and annihilation anymore. Zeke looked at suffering and said, let's end it by ending us. Eren looked at oppression and said, let's end it by ending them. And what Attack on Titan is really asking you is, which horror do you choose? The mercy of extinction or the freedom of genocide? And then, hopefully, you realize that's a false choice, that maybe the whole point is recognizing when your trauma is making decisions for you and stepping back to ask, wait, is there another way? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Both Eren and Zeke are what happens when you let pain become philosophy. When you let your worst moment define your entire worldview. When you're so focused on never being hurt again that you'll hurt to anyone, even everyone, to make it stop. They're not villains, they're not heroes, they're just two deeply broken people who were given godlike power and asked to solve an impossible problem, and they both got it catastrophically wrong. So what do you think? Team Zeke? Team Eren? Team oh my god, can we please find a third option? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious where people land on this because there's no easy answer, and that's what makes it brilliant and terrifying. Thanks for watching. Remember, if your plan for saving humanity requires ending humanity, maybe workshop it a bit more. See you next time.